We're live.
Well, guys, we're a minute away from Sunday, and USF down early, 28-6 at BYU. That first quarter was less than ideal.
Yeah,
would be
bad.
kind.
It was not great.
Let's take a look here. BYU 279 yards of total offense. Pretty balanced. Baylor Romney's been able to hit some shots downfield. That has really caused some issues for the Bulls. Defensively they've been all right on third downs, 1 for 4, but they've scored 2 touchdowns on fourth down. That seems to be an issue. I harped on it all week that they need to be able to stop BYU in the red zone, force them to kick field goals. Well, BYU is 4 for 4 in cashing in for touchdowns in the red zone, and this is where we stand after 30 minutes of play. Seth, just your general thoughts on what we've seen so far in the first half tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it was not anything super surprising. Like you said, you kind of need to hold them when they get in the red zone. You didn't anticipate you were just going to be able to line up and stop them. You knew they were going to drive the ball a little bit. But you hoping once you got in the red zone, you could kind of get them to stall out. Hasn't happened yet. It was good to see the defense not turn over and just lay down after getting down so big early. Obviously, they got put in a bad situation with a short field. But, if you look at the full game, it looks pretty bad. But I think a lot of people want to look at the second quarter, so we can kind of look at if you look at it by first quarter, second quarter, there's definitely a difference in the way the game was played and the totals here. So you can kind of see that. USF got outgained by 140 yards, or rather 129 or 28 yards in the first quarter. Actually outgained BYU in the second quarter. The score was pretty even. It just seemed like USF took a while to get in the game, especially offensively. A couple of McLean's throws early, like that screen on third down. If he doesn't throw that thing super high, they probably convert that first third down,
right?
And that could change some things. Not having your defense get on the field right back right away, 3 and out. And then I think he might have been able to stick it up inside on that power that he bounced out on the third down, that they ended up so a little bit short and then went for it and missed it. So, but then he's come back since then and played really well. So, you got to kind of look at the positives with the young guy. They're going to make some mistakes early, especially on the road in a tough environment, but he seems to have bounced back pretty well.
Absolutely, and Baylor Romney is kind of carving up this defense. 13-16 for 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's got 2 completions of 49 yards and 55 yards to help set up a couple of scores. He's hit on his last 6 attempts, including that 9-yard touchdown to Pua, who, you saw that coming from a mile away with Gunnar Romney kind of being the only guy on the left-hand side. You knew they were going to bring someone across the middle, and T.J. Robinson just got beat on that play, and there was no help. And we're here talking about the defense again, and any bright side? I know they did a little bit better in that second quarter, but that final drive by BYU was clinical.
Yeah, I don't think it's not going to get any better against teams that are much better than you and they can bully you up front. There's not a lot of options on defense. You try to sell out for the run, then if a guy's like some of those throws by Romney were inch perfect throws. I mean, he's hitting the guys like in stride right past the defender. I mean, those were really good throws. And then you have the play down in the end zone there where if your defensive back turns his head around, he might get an interception instead you get an interference call. So, those are the ones you got to try to make. But I don't know if it's just – I think it's just an issue. Sometimes you're playing somebody that's a little better than you, and if they play really well, it's going to be really tough for you to compete. And that's kind of what happened early. Then I thought USF settled in and made it a little bit tougher for them and forced a punt. And it's interesting how probably the defense's best drive of the game was right after the offense held the ball for a while, went down and scored. Then, unfortunately, then BYU comes right back. You get them to 2nd and 16, hoping you can get them off the field again. They get a long run. And that's the kind of stuff that you got to eliminate, those kind of things, if you want to win games like this. But they're not quite there, but they're not getting totally annihilated like it looked like they would early. I think they've bounced back pretty well, and you got to be happy to see that kind of resiliency on the road, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And two good drives. They've the 2 scoring drives, they combined for 25 plays on those 2 scoring drives, and then had 10 plays on their other 3 drives in the first half. So this Bulls offense needs to really find some consistency throughout in the second half. Go down, score a touchdown here to open up the second half. Get some momentum, build some confidence for your defense, but it's you got to capitalize. The Bulls had 1 red zone opportunity, and then they had to settle for a field goal, and that's you can't do that against better teams. And Jeff Scott will tell you that. Any coach in the world will tell you can't, especially when you're outmatched, when the talent disparity is as deep as it is. You've got to convert those red zone opportunities, and I knew this was probably going to be an issue, and it has been. And man, it's
that's
tough.
That's kind of obviously it's not the only difference, but just if USF scores instead of 2 field goals, they score 2 touchdowns, and then you turn 2 of the BYU touchdowns and then field goals. It's now a 1-score game, right? So when you make that long drive, when you get down there, cashing in for a touchdown is important, and that's something you've talked about since Tuesday, I think, this week when we did the live podcast. We've kind of been harping on that all week, that these are not games you go and not score touchdowns and win. You're not going to win a field goal battle. BYU is pretty good on offense, and they have a scheme that's going to get you in trouble if you don't go down and cash those in for touchdowns.
Absolutely. And, we touched on Algier and Katoa kind of having a slow start to the season. So they were due, and man, they've done their job. Tyler Algier, 7 carries, 43 yards, 2 scores, averaging 6 yards a carry. And then Katoa, three carries, 36 yards with a long of 25 as well. You knew you weren't going to hold them back for long, and this is the result here as the Bulls are now facing a 3-score deficit as they go into the second half. Obviously outside of scoring points, what do you want to see from this USF team in the second half?
I think just to be a little cleaner. It's even right now, even when they're moving the ball, it feels like a lot of it's on broken plays. Especially in the passing game. They're not moving the ball, just, executing concepts super clean. It's kind of broken plays and the quarterback's taking off and running. So I like to see a little bit more there, maybe get some an explosive play. But I think you're kind of getting to see maybe why they went with McLean, just his ability to kind of extend those plays and that kind of stuff. Because there's a couple times where guys get through untouched. There was a couple of times it looked like I think I said looked like Nightcrawler just like morphed into the backfield. It happened so fast. So and then he avoided it and ran for a little bit. It's just this is a team that's a little bit better than you. So you really got to execute at a high level to win these games. So I hope they just kind of keep going, doing what they're doing in the second quarter. I thought they played a lot better. Keep that going. Go down, score a touchdown. See what happens if you try to put a little pressure on BYU. Right now they got out in front and they're kind of just rolling right now a little bit, and it's kind of easy. Go down, score a touchdown, put a little pressure on them, see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And Timmy hasn't been able to hit the deep shots. He had the 120-yard reception to Xavier Weaver on again a broken play where he's about to fall down and just lobs it up over the linebackers there. BYU's done a really good job of keeping the ball in front of them, and getting pressure with 3. And early in that first drive, they brought some pressure and it caused some chaos. I think the first 2 plays USF got -8 yards rushing, and then man, it's tough.
I agree with Daniel. I think Daniel and Eric both have good. Like I want to see more motion, more getting them moving a little bit, more some option stuff, more design. Right now, a lot of the running game right now has been McLean taking off scrambling on passing downs. Love to see some more design stuff for him. If he's in the game, that's what you got to do. That's his strength is his athleticism and his running ability. And then you'll get him some easy passes if you get them to commit more bodies to the run game. So I'd love to see more of that. Love to see a little more Jimmy Horn too. We've seen some Dollison. That was our number 1 request. Maybe a little more Horn. Get the ball in his hands. See if he can do something in space. So.
Yep. I mean, we kind of knew, those over the top shots to Xavier Weaver that they've been able to have through the first 3 games were not going to be there just by virtue of how BYU defends, teams typically, and that's what it's been. You've been having to dink and dunk down the field, and one thing that we kind of talked about in our Slack channel as we watched this first half is it seems like Timmy's kind of afraid to just dump it off to his running back to get 4 or 5 yards. There were a few times in that first half where he could have just dumped it off the Mangum or Batee and gotten 4 or 5 yards to make it a little bit more manageable for them on second and third down. And I want to see him be able to do that more consistently. He did it once on one of the I think it was the final drive on that field goal, on that second field goal. He dumped it off to Batee for 5 yards, and it went from, I believe, 1st and 10 to 2nd and 5, and that's fine. Just
that I think the part of that it's taking him time to get with it. That really gets to making really quick decisions, because this is something that happened, I think, against Florida as well as FAMU, where you had those guys out of the backfield early, but he didn't get back to them. He kind of went through his progression and got to him really late. If he can see that soon and get out there, like you said, just pick up 5, get yourself in 2nd and 5, and now you got a lot of stuff you can run. But it's gonna take him just kind of getting, I guess he's getting more reps at it, getting through it. But you got to kind of speed up that decision making. That'll happen with more playing time too, and getting more comfortable. But there's guys, the way BYU plays, they're going to try to make you take the short stuff. So if they give it to you, take it. You'll see a couple times. I'm sure they can take that 5-yard hitch to Dawson all day long if they just get it out there. Maybe he makes a guy miss, and then you got a big play. So that's kind of stuff. Hit that. Be decisive. Don't be so late. Don't kind of wait around and wait for somebody to get open. Try to be decisive and give him some things where it's going to hit right away. Some quick game stuff. Or if it's not there, take off. I think you're doing him a little bit of a disservice by making him sit back there and read 5 progressions when it's all deep and BYU's just dropping underneath everything. Meanwhile, their animals up front are rushing the passer. Get him some quick stuff. Get him more RPO stuff. And make it to where, hey, if it's not there, dude, take off. Make it a little easier for him. I think he's playing as well as you can in that environment for a young guy. Just give him a little more help, I think.
Yep. The crowd is loud. They're out there. It's gonna be interesting to see how the crowd responds in the second half, being up 22. Do they come back? It's 10 o'clock out there already. Maybe they've got a soda bar that they need to hit. As they celebrate possibly a win here. I don't know what they do in Provo. I don't know what they do in Utah. It's just a different animal out there. And we'll go from there. Eric Supper in the 335. I mean,
here's what was interesting to me. Right as the broadcast comes on, they said that USF has 16 guys. They're going to play 16 guys on defense, and that's all they got.
I didn't understand that either. I interpreted it as like they have 16 guys like in the rotation.
Yeah, I hope that's for them, because Mekhi LaPointe, he looked like he was limping a little bit on one of those first long throws, but he's still been out there, so maybe he's just kind of getting loose. But yeah, there's not a ton of depth behind. It doesn't seem like so. We'll see if that plays a factor coming into the second half here.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up, just be effective here. The second half is actually started. We're already one play in. We got 7 yards already, and
There we go.
We'll keep it rolling here, folks, as we get going. Jaron Mangum 7 yards. So we'll
Besides
wrap it
his
up.
first couple runs, he's been running pretty good. Give him the ball a little bit more too.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll wrap it up here. Go enjoy the second half. We'll be back probably after the press conference with a wrap up, and we'll go from there. All right. Be safe. Enjoy it. Just drink some coffee. I had some coffee. I may get another one, and we'll go from there.
There you go. We'll see you after the game.